The world kicks you around sometimes. But together, we can kick it back.
Nimona! Smart, kind, and sophisticated!
That guy just beat his armor! He beat his armor! Oh, I like where this is going.
Let's break stuff.
I want to go ahead and I want to get to the first part of my stream, and that is my review for Nimona, Netflix's Nimona. Now, for those that don't know, the film focuses on a knight who was framed for a crime that, he did not commit, and the only person who can pretty much help him prove his innocence is Nimona, a shape-shifting teen who might also be a monster that he is sworn to kill in this middle-aged, futuristic, dystopian kingdom. Now, for those that don't know, this particular movie was the last film being worked on by Blue Sky Animation. Of course, Blue Sky Animation was an animation studio under 20th Century Fox. They were acquired during the whole 20th Century Fox acquisition with Disney chat, but apparently that was one of the cuts. Blue Sky Animation went defunct back in 2021. They were working on this movie, for quite some time. And of course, Blue Sky, if people don't know, they're the makers of the Ice Age. They've done the Peanuts movie, which I quite liked, a number of other projects, chat. But this was their last one. Now, apparently, one of the reasons as to why this film was abandoned by Disney was because it featured a lot of LGBTQ themes and characters, and Disney got cold feet, and they were like, it's too gay, we got to get rid of it, and so that's pretty much what happened. However, that didn't bother Netflix chat. They're like, yes, this is gay. All right, let's go ahead and finish this film. And they recently released it. And this wasn't really like on my radar. I'm thinking maybe I saw like a trailer for it like a few weeks ago and a couple weeks ago. I was like, I kind of like that trailer. I like the color palette. That one, the character of Nimona, I thought was quite amusing and quite funny. But after watching it, I got to tell you right now, this is, in my opinion, not only one of the best animated movies of the year, but just one of my favorite movies so far this year. For those that don't know, it is a loose adaptation of a graphic novel of the same name, and it kind of takes place in this futuristic society in which, like, the Middle Ages, like that aesthetic chat, that's like dominated for like 1,000 years. So even though society was established in the Middle Ages, they've kind of kept up a number of traditions, chat, the types of clothing, the types of organizations. Like, you have this organization, this academy, they call it the Institute, which trains knights to, keep the peace, to fight against foreign invaders, and to fight against, of course, monsters to protect this walled kingdom. Very even similar. I even noticed, like, kind of rewatching certain clips, kind of has like an Attack on Titan vibe, where you're not supposed to leave the wall. You have to always remain inside because there's untold horrors out there, untold monsters out there, right? It's like, it's kind of like a little bit of a Attack on Titan, which I kind of dug. But it focuses, other than, of course, the character Nimona, which I'll get to in just a bit, the movie actually starts with Ballister Boldheart, who is being voiced by Riz Ahmed, who I really like as an actor. I've liked him ever since seeing him in Jake Gyllenhaal in Nightcrawler. I thought that was a great film. He gave a great supporting performances, and he's gone to great success since then, chat. He's showed up in blockbusters, and of course, didn't he win an Academy Award, I think, for a film not too long ago, or at the very least nominated? The guy's a talent, obviously. But he voices the character of Ballister Boldheart, who is this, initially, this commoner, this boy who's accepted into this academy, into the Institute, and that's kind of like unheard of. It's like, we're bringing in dirty poor people to serve the Academy Institute and protect us. We don't like that. And so he was picked because of his courage, because of he was the best of the best, of course. And but despite that, he's not trusted. He's looked down upon because of where he originally came from. Despite being very good as his job, despite being an excellent knight, and eventually going to be promoted to the point where he will be leading this new era of knights to protect this kingdom. Well, something happens in which he is blamed for the assassination of the kingdom's queen, and he goes on the run. And he later comes across this character of Nimona, voiced by Chloe Grace Moretz, who, again, we probably best know her for appearing in Kick-Ass. She's done a lot of movies since then, Chad. Appeared in a lot of great stuff. She's a very good actress. And I think it's one of her best roles in a while. But he comes across this seemingly magical shape-shifting girl who can turn into all these different animals and people and even monsters. And I have to say, going into this and just, even like when the initial first few minutes, I just love the amount of detail, and I love how they kind of incorporated these two very distinct different like worlds that ordinarily probably would kind of be awkward if they mesh. Like we have this Middle Ages aesthetic, but it's just carried on through the centuries until it's like 1,000 years later, and now it's kind of like a dystopian sci-fi world, very Blade Runner. It's like if you mix Blade Runner with the Middle Ages, and so I really like that. That was like this looks different. And plus, its animation style, it's definitely not something like, Pixar's kind of 3D blobby animation, and nor is it something like Sony Animations across the Spider-Verse, but it does stand out among a lot of other anime movies that we've seen. It kind of has like a cel-shaded look to it, which I personally appreciated. I just didn't want to see the same thing over and over again, so to have a movie have a different art style, also playing around with like widely diverse settings, I thought kind of set it apart, aesthetically. So that was appreciated. But the thing that I like most about the movie, honestly, is the characters. Riz Ahmed's, Ballister, he's this very, put upon, a very dark, very brooding person based on, his upbringing. He's sensitive. And where you have the character of Nimona, she's the complete opposite. She's rambunctious. She's chaotic. She's literally an agent of chaos and enjoys creating destruction. And having them together kind of play off of each other, I think, creates like a really fun dynamic in the movie. Now, of course, they're not the only characters in the film. We have Eugene Lee Yang. He plays this glorified knight. This in this long running tradition of his family of being related to the one who kind of founded this kingdom and this entire society. And he plays Ambrosius Goldenloin, which is a hell of a name. Who's also the boyfriend and lover of Ballister. And, one of the things I really liked about this movie is how even though, you have like two major characters who are gay. I mean, one of the leads is gay. One of the main supporting characters is gay. But what I appreciate about this film, and I feel like other movies should follow suit, not just animated films, but just movies in general, it's just like, they're gay, but that's not the only thing that defines them as a person, as a character. That's just a part of who they are. And I like that. It's like so often in a lot of big budget films, whether they be animated or live action or anything in between, you always have these studios come out and it's like, we're going to make an announcement. We would like to introduce our first openly gay character in our big blockbuster film, even though they're tertiary and they have about one or maybe two lines, but we're going to cut it out anyway when we go to foreign markets, and just give themselves big old pats on the back. And I really don't like that, because it literally treats people, LGBTQ people, like they're props. Like actual props in a movie, like they're an effect. And I really didn't like that. So I just like that with this movie. It's just like, they're gay, but that's not the only thing that defines them. It's just a part of who they are. It's like, that's their love, that's their relationship. It complicates the plot, makes it interesting, Because with Ballister, it's like, he doesn't really have a family, doesn't really have anyone except for this guy, and he's always had his support. And now it's like, that's been blown up. That's been put into question because of what he's being blamed for and who he's associating with. And I was like, it complicates it. It makes it interesting, right? It's interesting. It's not a prop. And I thought that was great. And, it's also an allegory for someone who is gay, who is ostracized from society, who's looked down upon, saying that you're not good enough, you need to change. It's like, why are you even a part of this? You shouldn't be here. It's like that all works within the movie itself. But the movie's not constantly going, like shoving your face. It's just like, you pick up on these things, and it becomes obvious as the story goes along. And it's the same for the character of Nimona, in the movie, which, again, I think this is one of Chloe Grace Moretz's best roles in a long time. She does such a great job. And I mean, the animators do a great job with her, too, just playing around with her shape-shifting. It's so interesting. I mean, she can be anything from a rhinoceros to a whale to a demon baby. It's like, that's how they play around with her powers, and her voice performance just makes the visuals pop even more. She just adds a lot to it. But like her, you can look at her, and her character as an allegory for someone who is trans. At one point, like Ballister in the movie even says, well, it's like, can't you just be normal? Can't you just be a little girl? She's just like, I'm not a little girl. I'm Nimona. I might feel this way right now, but I might feel something else differently. Maybe I want to be this type of, animal or something. And I thought that was like just like kind of a nice explanation, like, oh, someone who's like gender fluid, And again, it's not like in your face or anything like that, but it's just like, oh, I see what you're saying here. I see what you're trying to get across. And it really worked for me. You also have Frances Conroy, who plays the character as the director. I don't want to say too much about her, chap, but ooh, you'll hate this character as this person who's in charge of the Academy Institute, the very ways of life of this society. Additionally, to be like the one last positive thing I wanted to say before like really touching on one of the negative aspects of the movie, really the only negative thing I had for the film. The film's sense of humor, I think, is great. Again, the chemistry between Riz Ahmed and Chloe Grace Moretz's characters work very well. Love their back and forth. In terms of dialogue and just visually what they do with them, I think is very, very funny. There's also like towards the last third of this film, they have a lot of wholesome moments between these characters. Some terrific flashback sequences, chat, where we kind of see like the early days of the society, as it eventually, grew into this, Blade Runner-esque, dystopia. But we also get some like scenes of horror where at one point it kind of becomes like a classic kaiju movie. And I really like that. And, they kind of flip on its head a little bit, and they even deal with themes of self-harm. And, I was wondering, like, oh, you're going to go into that direction? But thankfully, it doesn't feel exploitive. It doesn't feel, it feels like earnest throughout. There's nothing about it that felt dishonest. And I really like that. They were very careful playing with that type of subject matter, and I think they absolutely nailed it. Now, in terms of any negatives in regards to this movie, like there's only one character I didn't like, and that was Beck Bennett's Sir Tadius Sureblade. And I wish he actually talked that way, because even though this is a society that's clearly still immersed in the, socio-cultural aesthetics of the Middle Ages, but it's also in the future, like they still have some characters that sound like, hey, bro, hey, dude, which I just really dislike. Like they'll have some characters that sound like they're still in the Middle Ages, and then they'll have other characters that sound like us. There's a bunch of schmucks and schlubs, right? But then they'll just have these other ones that I feel like are just made to be incredibly obnoxious, and like that's the point. But I don't know, just because of how obnoxious they are, and because so much of their dialogue is yo and dude and bro, I'm just like, it's a little too much, and that did not fit for me. That did not work for me. And again, no offense to the actor. I mean, he's being told to sound this way. It's more of the writing of the character. But every time they were on screen, he was so stupid and so obnoxious that I feel like you can have like another character in place of him, someone who is arrogant and ignorant, but not someone who just sounds so annoying, who comes across, I mean, again, just so completely obnoxious that it kind of takes me out of the film. On several occasions. So that's really the only performance, the only really character that I actually dislike. Everyone else I think does a fine job, from the main cast down to the secondary characters, particularly Riz Ahmed and Chloe Grace Moretz. They do such a great job, and I really love their dynamic of each other. And just wrapping up, Chad, I feel like I'm glad that this film was resurrected. This is the last true Blue Sky Animation movie, with that studio being gone. And I mean, honestly, looking at it and looking at a lot of their catalogs, there are some of their films that I enjoy, but a lot of them I don't particularly care for. I'm not the biggest fan. Like, I like the first Ice Age movie, but the sequels that I've seen, did not care for those at all. But to see, like, hey, they're one of their last movies, I mean, really is their last movie is one of their best, I think that's a great note. It's a great note to end on, chat. And I recommend Nimona. I think a lot of people are going to really like this. You're going to find something, I think, that's going to be either very humorous or even defy your expectations of some of the wholesomeness that they get into, or even the tragedy they get into. I really enjoyed this movie, chat. But that's just my opinion on Nimona. What about you guys? How did you feel about Netflix's Nimona? I hope everyone enjoyed the video, and I want to take the time to tell you about my Patreon, Class in the Glass, which offers hundreds of film commentaries and video reactions to numerous movies, TV shows, and cartoons. If you're a fan of shows like Batman the Animated Series and Avatar: The Last Airbender, or films like Aliens and Raiders of the Lost Ark, my Patreon is the platform for you. Currently, I'm doing a subathon to reach 75 subs on the platform. If we hit 75 subs, we'll be able to start voting on the next edited YouTube reaction, which will include actual clips and scenes from the movies and shows I comment over. Choose from such films as Fire and Ice, Masters of the Universe, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, or Spawn. Subscribing at any tier level is appreciated, and feel free to give feedback at any time. Thank you again for watching the video, and see you next time.